head of our OPLFE.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation this evening.
Thank you, Kathleen. I think that is everyone, although I do see a couple Title I principals on the line tonight. Ellen Mackay, who's the principal at Brookfield. Thank you for coming, Ellen.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Courtney.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, TPAC Executive Board, and for the new TPAC reps. We're so excited to be working with you this year. Mike, I'll actually let you take it over from here.
All right. Thank you, Courtney.
Of course.
So for those who are on, just let everyone know, my name is Mike Woltz. I'm the chair of the executive board. I'm going to pass to Mashika Smith-Davis real quick. Davis Smith.
Hi, I'm Mashika Davis-Smith. I am the rep for Belvedere Elementary School in the Mason District. And I am currently I'm a board member. Hopefully, I may have the opportunity to step up and provide more service. Thank you for being here.
Can you pick someone?
Who do I pick, Mike? Come on.
Whoever. We're breaking the ice. We're breaking the ice.
You could do Heather. I saw Heather's on the
Who
line, Mashika.
who wants to raise up their hand and step up next, please?
No, we're not doing that.
I can go.
See?
Hi, I'm Heather Hale. I am the teacher liaison for TPAC. I am currently a third grade teacher at Wayne-Oak Elementary School in the Annandale, Alexandria area. I don't know if I was supposed to pick someone to go next, but if anyone would like to step up, please do.
All right. I'll go
I will go next. Oh, sorry.
Perfect. No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm done.
Hold on, let me turn my camera on. I'm Keeney. I am the representative from Bucknell Elementary.
I'd be happy to
That's all I
go.
got.
I'm Tariq Cook. I am the representative for Wayne-Oak, also the treasurer for their PTA.
I'll go. I'm Amanda Solpizio. I'm the rep for Woodley Hills, and I'm also the secretary for the PTA there.
My name is Jessica Strelitz. I am the rep for Sleepy Hollow Elementary, and I belong to a million committees at the PTA, but my husband's on the board, not me.
Okay, I'll go. This is my first meeting ever, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I'm Erin Anderson, and I'm from the rep from Hollow Meadows Elementary in the West Potomac Pyramid, and I'm the PTA president there at Hollow Meadows, and I am also the ambassador chair for the Fairfax County Council of PTAs.
I could go next. My name is Shannon Strong, and I'm the TPAC rep for Pine Spring Elementary. And I'm also PTA vice president and Girl Scout troop leader.
Hi, I'll follow. My name is Megan Doe, despite my screen name saying Hannah Doe, my daughter's. And I am a new TPAC rep for Timberlane, right near Pine Spring. Hi there. Hi, neighbor.
Hello, my name is Ali Raviola, and I am the rep for Forest Edge Elementary School. This is my first time here, and I'm also the family liaison at Forest Edge. Nice meeting you all.
Hello, my name is Maria Angeli Cortez. I'm the rep from London Town, and I am a teacher from London Town as well, 5th grade.
Hi, I'm Ho, and this is...
I'm Danusa.
And she represents Dogwood, and I'm on the executive board. And
I represent Dogwood Elementary School. Nice to meet you all.
And I went to Hollow Meadows Elementary School, so go Hornets, Aaron.
Hi, I'm Kristen Robinson. I'm the TPAC rep for Mount Vernon Woods Elementary in the Mount Vernon Pyramid, and I'm a multiple disabilities teacher there.
Hi, I'm Louis Mejia. I'm the TPAC representative for Woodley Hills Elementary School.
I can go next. My name is Maria Worthen. I am the designated representative to TPAC from the Fairfax County chapter of the NAACP. And I also have a child that will be attending Beech Tree next year.
Do we have anyone left that hasn't introduced themselves yet?
I think we have about 3 left.
I think Mike.
Okay, you
did
three.
introduce yourself, Mike.
Yes, I'll go. Hi, my name is Gloria Morales, and I am the TPAC from Glen Forest Elementary School. It's my first time. I also have 2 daughters in that school, and I'm also the classroom and cafeteria monitor from Glen Forest.
Hi, I'm Abby Jenkins. I'm a parent at Woodburn Elementary and a parent of a 4th grader, and this is my 2nd year on TPAC.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yes.
Oh, hi. My name's Hariklia Prionis. I'm the TPAC rep for Poe Middle School. I am also the cafeteria manager there. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, so do we have anyone left?
Yes.
Mike?
Hi, hi everyone. I am Sarah Ramadan. This is the first time to me in TPAC. I am representative to First Dell Elementary School. I am a parent to my kid in 2nd grade in the same school. Hi, nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you. Karen? I didn't hear from you. Are you still there?
I am still here. I'm Karen Keys Gamara. I'm an at-large school board member. I am this year's liaison to this committee. And I am really looking forward to hearing your robust discussions, which I know always happen. And Mike, you guys, Mishika, is this a good time for me to kind of let them know a couple of things that are going on with the board?
We can't, give me a little bit of time and I'll tee it up for you.
Okay.
How this group is different from a lot of the other organizations that a lot of our members serve on.
Good.
Yeah, let's let them know who we are.
Pleasure to be here.
Stay close. Thanks, Karen.
Of course.
Okay, so we're going to go through Title I expectations, just a little more background, what Title I really means, what it means for us, the role of TPAC, and you as a rep, committee as a whole, even as executive board member, because there's different levels to it. We're going to talk about the school board report for, it was 20 to 21, I believe. 21 to 22 hasn't been written yet. And hopefully folks had some time to either read the report, view the presentation, or both. We want to get, I think that's the best introduction you can really have, rather than us go on and on and on, just kind of see culmination of year-long discussion and then a presentation, conversation with the school board. And then we just have some updates and some pending actions that'll be needed going forward. So for the Title I, Courtney or Gina, do you all want to talk through this? Because I think it gets to the statutory part.
Sure, I can. So basically, we conduct outreach to all parents and families through TPAC, but we also support TPAC with anything that they might need as far as Title I or schools and just building those relationships between home and school. We're implementing the programs, activities, and other procedures to engage more family members and also other parents as well. I shouldn't say other parents, to engage all parents and family members. We plan and implement those programs, activities, and procedures with meaningful consultation with parents of participating children. And we maintain a district written parent and family engagement policy. So for all of our Title I schools, every single year we conduct, they actually do it, a family engagement policy. And that policy is written with family engagement events that the school basically throughout the year holds to really build that partnership between family and home. And then one of the things that they do is send that family engagement policy compact home to you all and get your opinion on it and get feedback on things that you might suggest need revision or where you might see where you could be more involved in the school and events as well. So I think they also hold an annual Title I meeting too, that everyone should be involved in and everybody should know about. And that's just where they really let you know about Title I, what we offer, and also some of the data around their school. So it's also another opportunity to really get to learn more about your kid's school and what Title I does to support them.
Okay, so you all have already shared that you're a representative for TPAC, but it's unclear how much you really know about what that means. And how you can help your school. It's going to vary from school to school because every school has its own culture, has its own way of doing things, has certain things that make it unique. But essentially, we serve as a bridge between resources and offerings and information from Title I and the school community. Not to say that that information isn't being shared or presented in some manner, but it often helps to have multiple modes of communication, different ways, different times. And in this role, I think one outcome you want to take away from it is a strengthened relationship with the principal. Because part of this, we do have principals who are here tonight, and throughout the year, we want to have principals who can attend this. Because overall, I'll say that the understanding of the TPAC, it has grown over years. But when I first started, which was around 2014, the title of the group was called the District Advisory Council. I had no idea what that really meant. And I wasn't even really sure what the group was supposed to do. As I got a better understanding, one of the recommendations made, at the conclusion of 1 year was maybe we change the name to something that at least outwardly communicates, who the stakeholder group is and, what particular communities are they representing. So, that was kind of the first part. And then, a few years later, it became clear that while we had always had good conversations, and I think that will continue, our attendance, tailed off precipitously after the first meeting. And, it became, we kind of had to figure out how is the group populated in the first place. And I think most of you were nominated by your principal and kind of thought about, do principals really know what this group is? There's a lot of things principals may identify, parent leaders in the school to do, but if they if they don't understand it, it's hard for them to give as credible or as strong an endorsement when, they have a parent or ask a parent to serve. So one of our recommendations a different year was to have principals attend at least one meeting, because then they would be able to not only have a presentation from Title I office staff, but they could also see how a meeting goes and interact with other representatives. And I think what it's helped to do is broaden their understanding of the universe. So much is going on in the school, principals have to manage. And I think certain expectations they have, or certain norms, which they may take for granted, aren't happening in other schools. And it's not always a bad or a good thing. It's often just a different thing. So having them connected to this gives them a better picture of what's going on in other schools. And it also allows them to articulate better to potential representatives, what it entails. As a rep, also, there's this, in case the principal, you're the alternate, can attend most or all of the meetings. And even though they are recorded and shared, the breakouts probably won't be able to be captured the same way. So whatever works for you. I know we're not doing as much in person, but whether it's a phone call, video call, or in-person sit down, have some way to debrief following a meeting with the principal, kind of get their perspective on the content, maybe say how it relates to your school directly, and then figure out the best ways to connect the information, the resources, or whatever the content was to the rest of the school community. The PTA meeting is one avenue, but it's far from the only. And I want to also use this time to distinguish, for those of you who do serve in the PTA, which I have in the past as well, how it is really distinguished from the TPAC. The PTA has its own organizational structure through the county, through the district, through the state level. The TPAC really is, it's a citizen advisory committee, one of, I think, 8 or 10 that were instituted by the school board some years ago. And as we'll get to it a little later, I think our mission, function, and what we can actually do is evolving. But the main difference is, unlike other organizations, we have, as you heard earlier, we have a representative from the school board, a member of the school board who's a liaison to our group, who can not only share information with things are going on with the school board, but also take things back to them. We're able to, at least once a year, and this is something that's in process. If you were able to see the presentation or read the report, it was an open question that I think we have yet to get full clarity on. But at least once a year, we're able to present to them, make recommendations on ways to improve the level of services, that are being offered to Title I families and students. And so allow that to be, so when folks start to ask, what is this? I mean, at the baseline, you can say it's a school board committee, which means that there's communication with the school board. And while, PTAs can absolutely do that, and, oftentimes I had my school board rep attend our PTA meetings, it's a less formalized structure. Karen, now would be a good time, if you want to talk about some of the information from the school board that you wanted to share.
Okay, well, I'll use this opportunity to thank you, first of all, Mike, for the description. And I always like coming back to Title I schools because I feel like I get to hear parents firsthand. And it's really critical that the school board has that type of access. So I wanted to make sure the parents knew we will be sending out, not we, but the communications department will be sending out a calendar survey in just a few weeks. And this is about trying to figure out how to have a more representative calendar and making sure that parents and community members have input as to how we set up the calendar. So I wanted to encourage folks to look out for that. I also wanted to mention that we put quite a bit of money into from the ESSER funds, which is money we got from the federal government to help support, recovering from the pandemic and having been out of the schools, put quite a bit of funding into outdoor learning. And so you should have access to a tent and learning opportunities outside. You should have opportunities to have lunch outside. Those are the things that the school board has made. One of the things that the school board has made a priority in an effort to try to keep our numbers down with respect to COVID. We did receive a report today, and we have done, actually as a system, we've done fairly well with respect to keeping those numbers down. Now, we have not had a lot of outbreaks and things of that nature, but that has a lot to do with being able to wear a mask and having access to the to the outdoor learning. And the other thing I just wanted to emphasize is just how important I believe your voice is. As you know, we want to make sure that every parent has access, every child has access to opportunity in our schools. And I want to attend these meetings, and please feel free to reach out to me so that I can know that if there are opportunities that you're not experiencing in your schools, then I'm in a position to try to advocate for that. And always you can communicate with your leaders and they know how to get a hold of me as well. So thanks so much to both you and Mishika.
Thank you, Karen. We can go to the next slide. Or Courtney, did you want to talk about anything regarding what you've been talking to principals about, TPAC?
That's perfect, actually, Mike. So we also made a point at our recent principal collaboration meeting to emphasize the strength of the partnership between TPAC and our principals as well, just providing them with that. This is what the role should look like. Please be open to hearing. Please be open to collaborating with all of the ideas, with all the information that you're learning in these sessions. So they do know moving forward. Most of them already knew, but just encouraging to create that stronger partnership between your TPAC rep and your principal to ensure that you're constantly communicating, collaborating, and really forging that partnership that we need to see between TPAC and Title I and our Title I schools. And I was really happy to hear Karen say as well, this is an opportunity for your voices to be heard. So if you have an idea, if you have something that you feel very strongly about, this is one of those opportunities where you have the floor to be heard, your concerns and everything else. So just knowing that this is a safe place for you to share your thoughts, as well as to encourage the partnership between you and the principal and at the school level too. So just reiterating that we did speak to principals at our principal collaboration meeting about this partnership and how they could make it stronger in the future. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Courtney. So as I kind of said, but just hitting those points again, part of what TPAC wants to really help do is get us more involved in our individual schools, and in some respects at the county district level as a whole, involved in the planning implementation of Title I. Like there are certain activities, there's a few that I always knew of when my kids were in elementary school, like Partners in Print was one, it was a literacy night, and there's been like other math nights and whatever activities, be able to not only give feedback on how they go, but maybe suggestions on other ways, other offerings that there can be. Because I think sometimes we get stuck in a pattern of doing something over and over without assessing how effective it is and whether we can do something else. Strengthening school and home partnerships. And I think this is something that is important for any administrator or any school staff member to really hear and understand and appreciate. As a parent who's not an employee of the school, information often flows one way. And I think there's as much to learn from the home as there is from the school. And this can be a conduit to do that. The better the school and the family can know about each other, the stronger a support network they can provide for the students. It also gives an opportunity to develop leadership and advocacy skills. That's just, that could be not only in communicating with principal, but, we've had quite a lot of opportunities to participate in focus groups, in interview panels, and, even presenting to the school board. If speaking in public is something you're not comfortable with, this is an area where you can kind of work on that and develop that skill. It's something you're used to. It's another form to do it with. You get to learn a lot of what's going on in the county just through, being in this group and, serving an executive board. We kind of do steering in terms of the agenda development and planning out meetings. And, we'll often have guests from, I don't say outside, but, guests throughout the county, to share certain issues or items of interest that may end up being at a future meeting. But as parents, we're very busy. We're always running around. We got a lot of things to do. And there's no way we're going to capture everything. It's impossible. But every exposure, every different meeting, every different setting you can be part of, you learn a little bit more, and your overall understanding of how things work in the county, you will be shocked at how much it accelerates. And you'll have a broader perspective and understanding than some of your contemporaries who aren't connected will have. And as I already said before, responding to the charge from the school board in an annual report. And the nice thing about the charge is that it really is supposed to come from our committee. It's not like the school board is coming up, well, you guys should do this. It's through, the course of the work that we do throughout meetings throughout the year, and not even something that we discussed or was on the agenda. It could just be through organic discussion, thoughts about it in between meetings, certain ideas or certain things you experience in school may result in something that becomes part of the charge, an area that we can explore more, get more information about, and then, possibly make recommendations, to improve things. So I think we are going to break out soon to kind of talk about the report presentation, but I think we're going to go really quickly through what the report and with the recommendations and the charge. Mashika, you got a question?
I want to encourage anybody that's on our meeting tonight to ask questions about what we've said thus far before we delve into more specific details.
Courtney, could we go to, I know the way we kind of do it, I think we do the recommendations and the charge. Can we go to the recommendations? So based on meetings that we had last year and discussions, first recommendation was ensuring more robust delivery of advanced academics to all students, developing data among Title I schools, illustrating whether AAP services are being provided with greater equity, and creating opportunities for greater collaboration and engagement between TPAC and the Advanced Academic Program Advisory Committee. That's one of the other citizen advisory committees. Give you a little background, and I don't want to spend much time on it, but it's just to make sure that just because there's a resource doesn't mean everybody has equitable information or access to it. And that was really the spirit behind that. And also leveraging the perspective we have, perspective APAC has, so we can work together and not parallel, because there's a lot of things that if we work together, we'll be better informed and stronger overall. Number two, it was funny because it was almost an introductory, it was a very brief presentation on the Career Technical Education Program, which is widely underknown. Whether everybody on here knows about it or not, it definitely is not something that, especially if you're talking about students from Title I as they progress through their school career, because it really starts, some of the programs, some of the classes are in middle school, the majority of them are in high school, but there's a visual perception that a lack of non-white students largely participating in this program, or if non-white students are participating in them, it's certain programs only. And, it's not a broad, spectrum of participation. Part of the challenge is that there has not been data collected on what that looks like. Every school, every high school may have some offerings, but it's not uniform. So a lot of times students may go to other schools for a particular program. And so part of that is to get some information behind it to see what the situation is, and then we can, more accurately address it. But part of that is how early is this information being known? For all of you PTA leaders, this is the type of things you should be talking about now, because decisions need to be made as students move their way out of middle school. And if that's the first time you're hearing about it, it's kind of too late, because it puts you under time pressure. You probably don't have time to get the full spectrum of offerings. And it just reduces the amount of options that your student can have as they progress through their school career. The last one, which may be the most important, it's that the county make ongoing anti-racist training and development for staff mandatory, but that has to mean more time, the expertise, human resources, the funding. Otherwise, it can never really be delivered or take root where it needs to. But beyond that, it's not enough to just take a training. The best way, really the only way to know how effective it is to get feedback and engage with families and students specifically about what this training is supposed to provide in terms of different classroom and learning experience. I saw for hands raised, thought I saw 2 hands up.
Mike, I raised my hand. I just wanted to kind of clarify what CTE is, although I don't, what career technical, I can't remember what the E is.
Education.
But education. I just wanted to translate that to, technical skill jobs. I have 2 sons with ADHD, and one wants to be an astrophysicist, and the other one wants to be a doctor. But I do plan to cross-train them because getting them to hold still is still a challenge. But they're interested in working with their hands and being able to do things. And that's kind of how I've looked at the option of having CTE education integrated into my son's education. It's in some ways, some people are passionate about it, and that is something that they want to embrace as a future career. At the same time, it's also a way to have a plan B. I don't think many people know about it. I was very pleasantly surprised to find out, my son could potentially train as a welder's apprentice, or there's, an avenue to be a plumber, an electrician, and et cetera. So CTE, Fairfax County actually has a formalized program to help people move into the trade. And that's what CTE is talking about. And we wanted to make sure people were able to talk to parents and let them know that that was an option for them.
Thank you for that, Mashika. Hannah, was that your question? I saw you had your hand up and you put it down.
Yes, thank you. I was distracted and I missed when you had defined what the CTE program is. That's it was not a term that was familiar to me, but
yeah, I didn't define it. Mashika did, fortunately, but I think that kind of underscores how, underknown it is. So thank you, Mashika, for that. And in terms of the charge, part of our ask was a little background. School board has a public engagement committee, which had some communication with citizen advisory committees. And I was contacted with other citizen advisory committee chairs, wasn't able to really connect and provide, and have a dialogue. But I think part of that was to evaluate and assess, what the purposes of these groups are. And it gave us time to, ask that question, why are we here? What are we really supposed to do? And, why is it that we only talk once a year in a formal setting? Things are happening throughout the year. The school board makes policy. They're not like an instant change this, change that. That's where FCPS leadership and administration will, that's an operational standpoint, but it's still important that they know about things as it's happening. It's important that we know about what's happening with the school board. As Ms. Keys-Gamarra said earlier, we're going to get some of that information, but it's, we're a stakeholder in this county, and, we're taxpayers, we're voters. So we should have more of a say in how things are going. And that's really what the spirit of this was. It was not just at the end of the year, but throughout the year, ongoing conversation. And that could mean, leadership from FCPS comes and talks to us about certain things or listens to us about certain things. I think listening probably more important in a lot of ways, a lot of times, because there's a lot going on, and being able to gather in a space and have a focused discussion, I think it's something that's lacking. I know there was a lot of, what do you call it, town halls for, throughout 2020, but that was kind of, to me, it seemed to be more of an unfocused listening session, just having the microphone on, but not always with a clear purpose. What we hope to have is, more focused discussion that will result in something specific. And so that's what a lot of this is about. It's, the CTE, figuring out how, families really aren't receiving it, but improve that and examine advanced learning. And, I've said for a while now, they call advanced academic program, it's called a program, but advanced academics is a philosophy. It's not something that only some people should have access to or are capable of participating in. And that's really the spirit behind that. And, again, it's a follow-up, and, with regard to anti-racist teaching and learning practice, that's an ongoing discussion. I think we could go on and on about that, but that's kind of the areas, but it doesn't have to stay there. We want to hear what folks have to say tonight. And, if there's other areas that are being missed that we should start to explore. I mean, what's interesting, and I think a challenge, is that there's turnover in who represents a respective school, for the TPAC. So you're coming into something that was done before you showed up. And I think it's only right that those of you who are here now have a say in the work that we're going to do for the upcoming year. So don't take this as something set in stone, and they're broad, but these concepts are broad enough so that there's a lot of ways they can still reach important things that may not be specifically articulated. I think we're ready for the breakouts now. Yes. So based on the report and presentation, what areas do you think that the TPAC should explore this year based on the discussion, based on your own experience, really? Because like I said, there could be things that were not touched upon, didn't address certain areas of concern that we should be looking at. Now, I don't know how we're going to divide folks up, but I would say we should at least have in each breakout group folks who were able to read the report, watch the presentation, just so we could have, a more informed discussion. So by a show of hands, if you were able to see one or both, could you raise your hand? Presentation or the report? So Gina and Courtney, does that help in terms of setting up rooms for folks to be in?
Yes, I'm working on that right now, Mike. And we're also adding a link to the Padlets, so we can just kind of jot down some of our ideas that we shared during the group.
I mean, Mike, I have a question. How many people do we have in attendance?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 22.
Oh, Roberto said 28.
I'm
Okay,
subtracting staff though.
Ah, so maybe 4 groups.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
And I mean, but we could also ask, do y'all want to break into groups? I mean, it's not an unmanageable number of people to just throw out ideas. I don't know if I'm, going against the trend here with throwing that out there, but I kind of want to hear what people have to say.
Well, you can float. I'm going to kind of move around and facilitate in the room, but at least let's see how it goes with smaller groups so everyone has a chance to talk.
Okay.
And we can, beyond that, we can come together later. We got to use our toys.
Ooh, look at those fall colors.
Toys.
Just a reminder, team, we're going to set you up into small groups. If you could just select a person, and we'll have facilitators in the room to help you with this. But as you're sharing your ideas for topics, if you could just add them to the Padlet, we really appreciate that. And
So Gina, I think it's probably better if the facilitator adds the ideas to the Padlet, only because then the facilitator can add each idea that they put. And then it also has a voting button at the bottom. So once people's ideas are on there, then people can also vote with like a thumbs up sign on which ideas they thought were one that we should utilize this year.
Okay, so Courtney, could you reiterate our mission in these breakouts?
Absolutely. So in the breakouts, you're going to utilize exactly what was on the school board report and think about what are some topics you'd like to dig deeper into this year that we might be able to invite people to present to you on so that we can build your capacity. Sorry, let me pause. So that we can build the knowledge on what FCPS offers. Mashika, I'm learning.
Yes, plain English, plain English.
Exactly. So that we can better inform you of what FCPS offers, what Title I offers, and also give you the opportunity to dig deeper into these topics. And that could be a presenter coming. That could be it could be a variety of things, various things. So what we're going to do is when we get into our breakout groups, you're going to have facilitators, Gina, Mike, and I. We're going to add your ideas to this Padlet. And when we're all done and we come back as a whole group, we'll share the Padlet again, and you can be able to vote by a thumbs up sign, similar to Facebook. You know, when you click on a like button, you can do the same with the different ideas that you see the groups include on the Padlet. So maybe first we add the ideas and then we come back and then we'll talk about the next directions.
So just to clarify, these ideas come from where? Like, are these ideas about the things you presented or things outside of what you presented?
Well, if I can speak to that, I think first, just give kind of your feedback and takeaway from what you saw, what you read, what you saw, what you thought of the exchange. Because I think that will be a more natural, organic feed into ideas, next steps.
I agree. So
definitely want to get your perspective and opinion on it.
Okay, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm still like, okay, ideas outside of what you talked about already?
So I think because there's new members, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, because there's new members also going back to what they learned in the school board. So we might want to come back to topics that have already been in that report that we presented last year that people might want us to retouch on this year. So I think it could be ideas from the school board report, but also new ideas too, and getting other perspectives.
Thank you. So we're going to get together and talk about if people had a chance to read the report, feedback on the report. And if they didn't have a chance to read the report, come up organically with things that they think that our team should talk about. Okay, thank you.
Mike, is that what you envisioned?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sending us off into groups. And Mike, Courtney, I'm just going to hold off so that I can pick a group that way we're not all getting on at the same time into one group.
That's what I assume we're supposed to be doing. I'm still not 100% sure.
Hello, team. I'm here to help and clarify any questions you have. So generally, and I don't know if this was shared, at our TPAC meetings, we have a topic that we want to kind of dig into. So an example of that was last year, our TPAC reps wanted to learn more about the AAP process and how we ensure all our students have that opportunity. So we had a visitor who came out and shared that process and what AAP is and how it's being implemented across the schools. What Mike wants us to do, if you haven't had an opportunity already, we can figure that part out. But if you read the report, there were just several different ideas floating out there. And if there are any topics as a team that you are interested in learning more about that you feel would help your schools, would be the opportunity to do it. We can list down or jot down ideas.
Gotcha. Okay, so
And I'll be your scribe, so I'll make sure I add in the comments.
I guess we need to pull up the report to see what we're even looking at for ideas, unless anyone has
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think
newer
it's
ones.
linked somewhere. I think it was sent to us as an attachment. But I can cut and paste the information from the charge for last year, if that's helpful. Unless Renee, you want to do it.
Sure, would you please? Sorry, Hannah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm asking, are the recommendations we're referencing, are they the ones that were in the agenda at the bottom? Those are the recommendations that came from the report?
Yes.
Okay.
So for instance, if you see things on there, like for instance, he talked about the career technical education. If that is something that you're not familiar with, that you feel like you need to learn, you would like to learn more about, this is where we would gather that information, like more learning around CTE and how to better support our schools in the understanding of CTE, or some more learning around AAP or social emotional needs. How are we addressing social emotional needs for our students after the pandemic? So any topics you feel might be beneficial for you, for the team, as well as the schools that you support.
Good evening, everyone. This is Louis from Woodley Hills. Yeah, definitely. I perused the report, to be honest. But I was part of last year's sessions, and we extensively went over the AAP program, and it was extremely informative for us as well as our schools as to the process and what that entitled. I think looking at the report, I think one of the things that at least I feel that could be more elaborated, if you may say, is the social emotional learning. I think it's impacted us dramatically last year going from physical to virtual, but now going from virtual to physical. It's been a huge change for our students. I have two children at Woodley Hills and one at Walt Whitman Middle School, and it's taken a toll on them. And I think it's something that we need to, as parents as well as educators, and somehow we're all involved in the educational system. I think we need to be aware of that and try to find ways to support our children a little bit better.
So Louise, just making sure that I capture what you said. What I went ahead and typed in was gain some information around some social emotional support for our students, especially since the pandemic.
That's correct, Renee.
Hi, my name is Megan Doe, from the rep from Timberlane. I'm new to this. And I'd love to add, I love Louise's suggestion. Thanks for that. And I guess I also would love someone to come in and describe the social emotional curriculum, learning curriculum that's already in effect in the schools. Would be one thing that I just feel like I'm not as informed about as a parent. I mean, I credit Fairfax County for having that. And I think we have a pretty robust program, but I just don't feel informed about it. And I guess to what extent are there opportunities being made through Title I to enhance that curriculum to respond to some of the needs that have come up during the pandemic? Because I couldn't agree more that I think those needs have accelerated with
Extend those opportunities. Okay.
Renee, I think all I added is I'd love someone to come in and talk about what's already being done in the schools and then what opportunities there are to enhance that curriculum to address specific needs that have come up during the pandemic.
Renee, if I might just give my takeaway about recommendation number 3, I think I would like someone to come over and talk a little bit about the anti-racist training. I think many of our schools need that, and to provide us more information about training and how to provide human resources in that field. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
I would be very interested to hear if there's any information on the additional funding that the county received through the CARES Act and how that potentially impacted Title I programs. And that might be as easy as saying there's more money for staff or, you know, other things that are going to be invested by those extra funds.
I just want everyone to know I'm kind of shorthanding the notes here, just so that for yours, Jessica, I went ahead and put additional information around additional funding from ESSER and how it impacts our Title I schools.
Perfect. And I also second Luis's note about mental health. That was one of the first things I had written down as well, as a parent of 2 young boys.
And the reason I brought it up is because, again, it was part of the curriculum last year, and I had no idea what it was. And I actually had to inquire about it, and that's how I kind of got invested a little bit into that. But yeah, it was something that just became available and was touched upon, but little to no information provided to parents.
I put this in the chat, but I just wanted a quick insight. When we say CTEAC, what is that actually? What does the acronym stand for? It was part of recommendation.
The Career and Technical Education Action Committee. So basically the advisory committee. So basically this similar group of people. So like I was in an advisory committee for the last 2 years for another part, basically advising the school board on things from the community level. It would be something similar to that for career tech.
Okay. And I know Fairfax County would that be more applicable at the high school level, or just, you know, how many Title I high schools are there? And then what level is this program mostly implemented in? Are those questions that we would have to do digging on?
So Sandra, there are 41 Title I schools. 40 of them are elementary, 1 is middle school. So traditionally, Title I schools are usually the basis is around supporting the elementary level. And that doesn't mean that we can't add secondary or anything like that. So 41 Title I schools, primarily elementary schools.
Okay.
As far as CTE, I think the goal for the team last year was that the communication needs to start early, like parents need to have an understanding earlier. That way there are choices when they move on to those secondary levels. There's the opportunity to think about it, plan it, and have those choices when they get to the secondary level. Several TPAC reps mentioned how they didn't even know about it until it was already too late to kind of get their kiddos involved in that. So I think it was more about just making parents aware of it.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Are there any other ideas or any other learning that you just based on your experience at your schools that you want to bring to the table, that you feel you need clarification so you can help support your particular school?
So
Again,
our
topics?
Our school was part of a redistricting move this past year. A number of schools in the Mason District of elementary schools kind of swapped a lot of students. We've seen a ton of growth in our region. We also have a ton of influx of new families coming into the school. So if there's, and this is, I think, more of a communications and leadership and connection to the community way of things. I feel as though Title I schools struggle a little bit with really connecting across the community because you often, I think, have a propensity for multiple languages, multiple backgrounds, and just a very diverse community, which, you know, some people struggle with a little bit. So if there's anyone to come in and kind of give advisement in terms of different ways to look at the community and connect with the community, I know for our school, for example, that would be a wonderful benefit, something that I could pass on to our principal, to our staff, to the PTA, et cetera.
Engage families, strengthen connections and partnerships with families. And that's interesting. We do have that's an interesting topic, actually, Jessica. We do have a family engagement office who focuses on those strategies. And if this is something that like the entire team feels like they want to do some more learning, because I know that Title I schools every year have asked us, what can we do? What more can we do? We're struggling to get parents involved. That's definitely, we could bring that team in to kind of give ideas that you could share with your school.
I echo Jessica's sentiments as well. That was something that's come up, I know from at our school. It's just how to get more families engaged and involved in different partnership models. And so any insight that we could have on that, as well as just kind of short-term resources versus long-term resources. I think the differentiation is kind of specifically kind of what's targeted towards CARES and what are some long-term resources related to health and wellness, mental health, that the school has dug up. So those are the two topics I kind of bundled together, but one of the top priorities was around community engagement, especially. So thank you, Jessica, for sharing that.
And Sandra, I want to make sure I capture your second piece. What was the second piece?
The second piece was, you know, so there's CARES funding, which is theoretically short-term funding. But I know that with the report and like Fairfax also has like some initiatives that they've launched within the public school system. And so like how, I just want to see where there's overlap, right? Like where Fairfax has identified this as a long-term priority, but oh, by the way, we have some presidential, you know, we have some federal funding to kind of kickstart that.
Okay, various funds. And then the example you gave was, for instance, the mental support. Is that like something that's going to continue on?
Yeah, and yes. Also, like mental health would be, I thought, you know, just whenever Louise said it, I thought like maybe that's a, you know, I've seen things on the website. Let me also clarify that this is my first year, and most of the information I have is from like perusing the website. But when Louise shared that mental health was a part of the curriculum last year, perhaps that's something that Fairfax wants to focus on longer term. And then what's the short-term funding that we have available that aligns with some of their strategic initiative and 5-year plan.
Okay.
But mental health was just an example.
Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? Actually, someone else mentioned that, gain an understanding on the additional funding from ESSER, and I'm gonna add a little note about what is the intersection between that and long-term. Hold on. Are there any other topics that you feel is really important for us to focus on for the share? I mean, you all would be the best resource for us because you're in the schools.
Any sort of one pager, and I know it's so beyond a one pager, but resources for understanding truly what benefits are aligned with Title I, so we can again kind of process that, as Karen said early on, make sure that we're receiving those benefits or that our school's implementing those benefits and advocate for them. And that doesn't need to be an entire session, but if there's resources that you can share with those of us, especially those of us who are new to this committee, I think those would really be welcome and appreciated.
Sure. And Jessica, usually your Title I schools are supposed to hold an annual Title I meeting that goes over all the benefits and the additional funding you receive because the schools identified Title I.
Yeah,
I can send you that information. It's quick if you'd like to use that to be.
Yeah, we had a presentation early on. We have a brand new vice principal who led it, and there was no translation offered. So a number of our families were unable to really understand that. There was no follow-up. So any additional resources I can receive from the county and be able to share with people, because that was never followed up on by administration, I would love to be able to do that.
And we have them mostly translated already, so I'll send you, let me know.
I have no doubt.
I'll send those things to you and then you just let me know what else you need. And feel free, like we're part of the Title I office, so we're really running a lot of the compliance, the grant for this, for all our Title I schools. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact one of us here in the Title I office. But traditionally, we've been working with the principals and the AAs when it comes to Title I. So
Renee, what you're sending to Jessica, is this available online or is this something that you can send to me or us as a group? Or
Sure. And here's the thing, I'll send you a link to our webpage that has that information.
Okay.
That might be helpful. What I'm sending you is stuff that your principal should have already shared with the family community because it's part of the compliance piece to receiving Title I funds.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I think even being able to like distill it a little bit, you know, like I'm sure that there was probably something that was buried in the millions of paperwork we all saw at the beginning of the year. But in terms of just making it more, as you guys were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, language that everyone can really understand, as well as any translation for our community, which is mostly Spanish speaking and a lot of Arabic speaking, that would be super helpful for us.
Sure, definitely.
Renee, can you send that to me also? That'll be great.
And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring that to Mike's attention, that might need to be a topic. Since you are TPAC reps, it's probably really important to know exactly what that grant and what that title entails. So that might need to be a session on its own.
Excuse me, this is the first time to me to attend the meeting. I told you before that I am a parent and I try to catch a lot of information today. And after the meeting, I try to make that. I asked for translation in Arabic, but I didn't find it today. So I try to handle it by myself and understand all of this information. Because I want to be a good representative to my school and the other parents like me. I want everyone in the school and parents like Jessica said, there are a lot of different language in the school, Spanish, Arabic, and a lot of languages, and they didn't know anything about the Title I, what they do, and about the TPAC. So for me, for example, it's the first time to me, and I try to catch all the information. I think a lot of people and a lot of parents didn't know anything about that. I think they need more information to reach for them. By me, by a representative, or by the county, send it to the school, for example. I suggest to have, for example, information in link in FCPS, and we can share that with the parents, and they can translate it, or they have to translate on the link, for example. And if there is something new they want to share with the parents, maybe have survey to ask the parents about what they want to do, and catch all the information. And the other session in the next month, for example, we can share what they want. I don't know if you understand what
I did, definitely. So I'm thinking you're trying to gain some feedback from the community to ensure that they're receiving all this important information, and then bringing it back to TPAC to have those discussions and share those ideas with each other.
Thank you so much. I think it will be helpful if all the parents know the information what we talk about today and every session. I think, for example, if maybe I can't be the representative in the next year. So when the next year come a new representative, she or he want to know a lot of things from the beginning. So I want the information be clear for everyone. If everyone come the next year, year before, the information can be found, for example, in the link or something, can find it easily without, yeah.
So how can we ensure clear communication and accessibility to important? Okay.
And excuse me, Jessica said that the information in different language, because I try to manage all of this.
No, I totally am. Perfect. I have that. So team, I'm in charge of breaking us up. So I'm going to break us out of our group, and we're going to all go back to the main group. But I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your input. We really appreciate it. And the purpose behind this was to be really, really intentional about the things we'll do together as a committee. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's break out.
Thank you for leading that, Renee. That was really, really well done.
Thank you, Jessica. The only issue is like just multitasking with all the technology.
I know, I hear you. I'm still on mute half the time, so I spend all day on these boxes.
Well,
It's like we're the only group that got sent back to the main room.
Yep, we're all heading back.
Oh, no. Let me finish my statement. We are here to talk about how to use the additional funding provided by the federal government to support vulnerable communities that have been designated as Title I. And with that comes resources to allocate to things like programs for Partners in Print and the other programs that Mike mentioned. So far as integrating AAP into all schools or Title I schools, I think we need a broader coalition. And so I'd encourage you to reach out to the AAP Parent Action Committee or look at when their meetings are so that your voice can be heard. I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying, I think we may have more success in changing things in the future by doing it that way. But I may be wrong, and Mike can speak more about this.
Mike, if I can, I believe there was somebody in our group and he was trying to share. I apologize that I don't know your name right off the bat, but you were trying to share and I did not get what you were sharing. So I
No,
just wanted to give you an opportunity.
And I'd like to do that for a few, I'd like to do, a few got pulled. We were in the process too. I didn't realize we were getting pulled so fast. So
Great.
definitely want to give folks the opportunity. You can either private message their facilitator or you can share with the group. It's up to you. Go ahead, Ho.
No, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. And I'll add it to the Padlet too. And I apologize that you were unable to share.
If anyone from, my group, if they wanted, like I said, you could either share to the full group or you can just send me a message. 'Cause I know we're in the middle of conversation. And just to let everybody know, a lot of folks in our group hadn't had a chance to read the report or view the presentation. So one of the questions asked, of them is, why were you interested in this committee? And we got a lot of really good, feedback on, what made them interested, even if they didn't know as much, what the committee was about.
Mike, can I offer a suggestion? I know for my group, and I'm sorry about the pause and the transition to the main room. I don't know if we want to take maybe 5 minutes to open the floor for anybody, like you mentioned, to share if they had any final thoughts, but just share some of the ideas, because the group, and I'm sure in everybody's group, we had some really good ideas that might be just something that we can kind of share if anybody would like to share. Is that something you might be interested in?
Oh, that's great.
So we're going to open it to the floor. I mean, for any group members, if you'd like to share some of the ideas that you captured during your groups, to share whole group, we really appreciate it.
So I have a question, which is just sort of how the input that this group provides is used by FCPS. So just sort of what is that decision-making process based on the input that we provided today and will provide at future meetings?
So it's really something, as much as you want to do. I don't want to say as little, but responsibilities come up and people, maybe pulled away. But it's not like, one thing said is going to be told to the school board, just because, like I said now, but it could be. The idea could spark a greater conversation and it could underscore some issues that we want to talk about with them. So, we try to capture feedback throughout the year at every one of our meetings and put it back out so everybody can see it. And, around that, we try to organize some common themes that a lot of folks are speaking to. And then we may, go a little deeper and see what comes out of it. Is this discussion is good for information, or have we outlined or have we highlighted an area that needs, policy change or data or whatever? Does that help answer?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Mashika, you had your hand up too.
Yeah, even though this is my year 3, Karen, I'm sorry. Wait, I'm doing a Demi Lovato. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I would love to hear how you all incorporate the feedback you get from all of the different groups. I mean, is it discussed? Is it considered? How does it impact any decisions or plans for future decisions? Like, what happens? Because we don't have a lot of clarity into what happens next.
So are you putting me on the spot?
No, because I know you're ready.
So part of the reason I love being on Title I is because I can take that information directly into the meetings and start advocating, which is what I've been known to do. We always receive reports from committees, and it really depends on how board members connect with that as to how that information is moved forward. I can't say I'm very proud of the way some of those committee reports have been dealt with, but the bottom line is we get so much information, it's impossible to respond to all of it. It's excellent input. And so what I try to do is I try to make sure I'm actually hearing from our committees, the committees that, particularly the ones where I'm the liaison or the person that's supposed to be communicating with the board. And I take that information directly to my fellow board members. For example, I heard today, I can tell you a number of things that I heard in our small group the board has discussed rather extensively. I heard comments about military families. I specifically held military family office hours to try to get information, advocate for them, and also having conversations with the military liaison at FCPS to talk about dealing with families who are transitioning and to kind of standardize how those families are treated in a hospitable way. I know that's a separate issue. There was a conversation with respect to advanced academics. Those types of things were included in the study. The comments that we heard here actually encouraged me to recommend that we look at the advanced academics program and try to figure out how to increase access. And so I don't want you to ever feel as though it's going into a vacuum. It's just that there's 12 of us on the board and we have to advocate and it has to rise to the top. But I can promise you that when I'm a part of it, I am carrying your message, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to hear directly from our parents in this committee. Hopefully that answers some of your questions.
Thank you. That's why I voted for you, and that's why I will vote for you again.
I wasn't looking for that, but that was good.
Yep, I know how it works.
Yes, I see the chat with respect to Afghan refugees. Yes, we specifically have been working with the county and making sure that there is a connection between FCPS staff, teachers, and dealing directly with the Afghan refugees. Yes, the answer to that is yes.
I think something that came up a couple of times in our meeting was really, I'm sure there's a lot of turnover on all committees, but for even just basic information for all of us to have that's consistent, that we can educate ourselves to be able to answer about benefits of Title I. I recognize that all schools are supposed to have a presentation. Some schools did that, some schools did not. There are other resources in different languages, as we represent a lot of diverse schools. If we can get that information in a couple of different languages, that would be very helpful. You know, we want to make sure that we're ambassadors and also really have deep knowledge of the program so that we can serve as a resource for the community. So anything like that that I know the office might be able to offer us over the next couple of weeks as we prepare for our next meeting. I think that would be very, very helpful.
Okay.
Courtney, can
I
you speak
also,
to- Sorry, Karen.
well, I see a question in the chat I was going to try to answer with respect to customer service. We talk a lot about professional development for our staff members. And in our small group, we had a lot of conversation about anti-racist, culturally competent, making sure that people are appropriate. That's an ongoing conversation. I don't think you ever quite achieve cultural competence, but it's just something we're working toward, changing the culture so that hopefully our staff members are dealing with people in that caring culture, which is part of one of our strategic plan. The question she just asked me was with respect to getting reports out to specific schools. Am I stating that correctly?
Are you asking me about that?
Jessica,
Yeah.
you were asking.
Yeah,
You were
any-
talking.
Any overview. So I know that the Title I office has a presentation, a deck about what we should be able to offer as a Title I school, what basically parents should be expecting of their school based on, what Title I is all about. We had a presentation earlier this year, and unfortunately, no translation was offered. There was no follow-up with the families. So, there's a lot of family and community building that needs to happen in our instance, and I think a lot of our schools. And so any resource like that we can be equipped with to share with the community via different avenues in multiple languages, I think would be very, very wonderful as a support.
So I think Shannon tried to answer your question in the chat. I can tell you as a board, we have constantly emphasized the importance of not only communicating a singular message across all the schools, but also trying to make sure we're reaching those who speak different languages. And so we just, as I mentioned earlier about the calendar, we wanted to make sure that's in those various languages, and it varies from school to school because we speak about 200 languages in FCPS. So that would be quite a document trying to cover all of those. But I can tell you that's a goal of the board. But it looks as though, I know we've had some of these kind of conversations when I was the liaison a few years ago, trying to make sure that we got that information out. So I hope the staff is listening to try to figure out how we can improve that. With respect to student discipline, is there data accessible to parents that will shed light on demographic discrepancies with regard to how discipline is dispensed? Yes, it is. We have a dashboard that talks about discipline in each school and how it is maybe different depending on demographics. And it is also something that we spent quite a bit of time talking about as a board, updating our SR&R to try to eliminate those disparities.
Jessica, to your question as well, Courtney, you want to speak a little more about Title I? Because I think what we have in this group tonight, a lot of folks who open to learning, want to know as much as possible. And it's a message and it's information that multiple times we can receive it. But you want to talk a little more about what Title I offers, just so that us as representatives can kind of know what to look for in our schools and what our expectations.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to just speak a little bit more to that. So Jessica, our annual Title I meeting is required of every single school. So 42 schools are supposed to do it. We also attend some of those meetings too, and it's VDOE compliance. So we have to meet that need. We're audited, and that's one of the needs of the schools. They have to do a Title I annual meeting. Then we also provide all of the documentations that they need in every language: Arabic, Spanish, every language that you can think of, we get translated through the language services. So we have all of this documentation. We have the meetings. We actually have the family engagement policies in multiple languages too. So everything's there for the principals to utilize in their meetings with you. So maybe this is more along the lines of us going back in our next principal meeting and saying, please share these documentations with your, with your families and ensure that they have access to them. So that's good to know. And moving forward, we can do that. But we also provide them with all of that. So just making sure that we even set up new principles for success, and we also have made a big, huge just shift in getting that knowledge and getting those resources out to not only the principals, but also the AAs. A lot of people immediately go to Title I funding. Like that's what a majority of people think Title I is about, is providing those extra funds. And yes, we provide extra funds for these schools, but it's what they do with the funds that makes the impact. So it's being strategic in how they're spending them. So a lot of what we do is reallocate the money to the schools, and then the schools base their money and how they spend it on what's called a comprehensive needs assessment. The comprehensive needs assessments where they dig into the data, similar to what I think it was Tyrese was talking about too. When you spoke about the discrepancies in the disciplinary data. So schools look at their data, they look at those discrepancies and they come up with this comprehensive needs assessment. And then they utilize their funds to align with what they see their best needs are. It's called a root cause analysis, and it's part of what we have to do for VDOE with every school. It's done every 3 years. So all of our schools will be engaging in that same activity this spring. So we'll be going through this. You'll see things that are going to be asking for your feedback, or I hope you'll see things that are going to be asking for your feedback in that process too. In the annual Title I too, Tyree, they will also be sharing with you some of the data. So in your annual Title I, you should be seeing some of the school data. And if you don't, please let us know, because that's a new requirement from Virginia Department of Education, that we need to be sharing data with the parents, and then also gaining your feedback on that data too. So that's important to know. Also, Title I provides all of our schools with that funding. That's how they provide schools with the resource teachers. So if you've ever heard your child come home and talk about a math resource teacher or a literacy teacher or an instructional coach, or there's a lot of support staff that are also funded through Title I that not every school gets. So that's also another way, is that they put extra people there to support the children too. And then there's a lot of different ways that they utilize those funds. And the funds, like I said, they have to come from that root cause analysis. And thanks for ignoring the background too. 4 kids is kind of chaotic. So thanks for being patient with me. And then there's numerous ways. And you know what? I appreciate your idea of like just coming up with multiple languages to just give like an overview of Title I. And I'm happy. We've been doing a lot of like 1-pagers, just refreshers for our Title I principals and administrative assistants and even APs lately, because the more people that have the Title I knowledge, the better. So I'm happy to come up with something. And Mike, if you can remind me, we could share that at the next TPAC meeting, just a quick overview of Title I. And then any questions you have after that, feel free to reach out to us and we can kind of clarify any of that.
Thank you, Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask one question of our staff member? Just did an excellent job. Is there any way that we can possibly send something out to all our Title I schools just on communication to make sure that that is consistent, and then perhaps this committee can help us understand whether that's actually happening? I love real-time checking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. One of my
I was going to
favorite
say that,
things.
whether it's, I don't make it as formal as a survey, but maybe if there was some certain questions, has your school talked about this? Has your school talked about that? And you can tailor it on what you communicate to principals, what they should be doing, and we're the best source of feedback. Without even knowing, just ask those questions and we'll give that, and that'll allow you to have a more nuanced and, a deeper discussion as you meet with principals throughout the year.
Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, Lisa, I see your hand. I'll definitely give me 2 seconds, but I think that's a great idea. And then I also would even say that, so we have communication, and it's very frequent communication with the principals too. And we also send them updates and try to ensure, we also have a system, it's called federal monitoring as well. And that's where they have to upload all these documents after they share them with you. So it would be helpful though, moving forward. Yes, we know they update it, yes, we know they upload these documents. We have a central location for all of these things for every school. And we actually go through it monthly and just check and make sure the schools put what they need that's due that month. So yes, is what I'm saying. We can adapt the structure that's in place just to better meet the needs, but also to gain that feedback, because we're always looking for feedback in ways that we can better support our schools, but also our families. So definitely I can. Lisa, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I will not hold you long because I know it's after 8:30 already. But I do want to just share something that Karen, Ms. Karen Keys Gamara said in the chat, which is so important. And I just want to just lift that up a little bit more in terms of the COVID related issues. Principals, I'm just glad that she shared that, because we want to give principals grace during this time of return to school and COVID. They are working through so many issues that, unbeknownst to them, as school opens 5 days a week, return full time. And just trying to navigate that, principals are under a lot of pressure. Not just, I totally understand and hear everything that's been shared today as parents from your lens and perspective. And I just want to raise what Karen has shared about all that's happening right now on the plate of principals. And so we are very mindful of sharing emails, how many emails go out to principals, because they attend meetings every week. They attend, they receive a lot, as well as trying to handle the COVID cases that are happening in schools. So thank you for having grace, and thank you, Karen, for raising that up and saying like all of the things that are being impacted right now at your school. So I'm sure your principals are doing the best they can at this time. I just want to say thank you for letting me just share that piece, because I think we need to be mindful of that as well.
We definitely need to have grace with one another. And I think that there's, I won't take up too much time, but I think there's a real effort to try to get back to normal as quickly as possible. But I would love to still have that template. I think someone wrote, it would have helped to have those kind of templates. So I think we can still talk about those improvements, but still give each other grace. Thanks.
There is one more thing I wanted to add, because I did see Maria's question, and Hannah, I see your hand, I apologize. And that was, she asked about extra staffing for counselors and other mental health professionals. So I want to just plug in here. So Title I actually centrally funded an FTE 1.0 for every single school this year to better support the mental health of our students, but also the academic. So we centrally funded an extra staffing position for every single one of our schools. I will say, in full transparency, not all of the schools have utilized that position yet. And we did provide them flexibility in how they use that position to better fit their needs. So I did see your comment, Maria. I apologize, it wasn't sooner because I didn't check the chat, but some schools got an extra counselor should they choose that. Some schools got 2 extra AAs. Some schools got 2 instructional assistants, and then others chose to have a math or a literacy interventionalist or an ESOL interventionalist. So I did want to just add that staffing. And definitely, Gina, I saw your comment. So some of those schools that haven't yet hired, it's not because of they don't want to per se, it's also about finding the right people for those positions. So not just putting somebody in it, they're trying to find qualified people for those positions.
Not only that, it's not just qualified. You're right. They're trying to find qualified people, but it's been hard to find people. But I just wanted to highlight your comment about if a parent is asking about a counselor, if their question is coming from the place of needing that level of support, certainly we want to guide them to the principal. Even I can try to, they can reach out to Mike, they can reach out to me. If there's an additional need for that, and they're not feeling that they're getting that, then we want to hear about that.
Hannah, you have your hand up?
Hi, it's Megan Doe. I had two just follow-up
Oh, I'm
questions
sorry,
for Courtney. That's okay. One day I'm going to learn how to change that. Courtney, first off, thank you. That was extraordinarily helpful because as a new member, a new TPAC rep, I really needed that. And I guess two clarifying questions I had is one, is a Title I presentation at a PTA meeting sufficient to meet that annual Title I requirement for principals? Because I think
No, so they actually have to present it, but the presentation has to have the school's individualized data. It has to have, there's multiple things that they have to introduce that Title I provides them in that presentation. And then they also have to have documentation of attendance. So what family members came to it. So we've also provided them with a Google form that has the ability, they're supposed to send that out to take attendance. Some schools took screenshots of attendance. So there's a couple different pieces of documentation they have to have for that meeting.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it is intended to be a separately advertised meeting just for the entire school population, just to learn about Title I.
Yep.
Thanks. And then the second one is does the principal then have sole discretion over how funds are utilized? Once, the allocation of funds, once the funds are distributed, and is there any opportunity for parental input in
the funds, it's not required per se, but as far as the comprehensive needs process that they use for their budget book, so when they do the comprehensive needs, they look at the data, they identify these high impact drivers of the school through the data. So what's going to make the biggest bang for my buck in a way? Like, how am I best going to support my kids with this? And fill in those achievement gaps in my data. And then at the table, though, for that CNA process are teachers, admin, classroom teachers, support staff, all kinds of stakeholders are at that table. Lisa or Gina would have to speak whether a parent has been at the table, because I haven't seen that previously. I'm not sure if they have, but
No, they have, we haven't seen it. However, parents, when principals, we encourage our principals to make sure they invite all stakeholders of the school community. So that can include parents.
Okay.
I was going to say the same thing.
Thank you both. I appreciate that.
All right, I have a question. Forgot to bring it up earlier, but it's no less important. I became aware of, as a result of the bus shortage, and I don't know how it's impacting the elementary school level, but I know that there's been at least a middle school situation where, and it was an article actually talking about the bus shortage, where a parent started bringing her child to school because they were missing about 40 minutes of their first period, and they didn't want them to stay in that position. And while it's not ideal, it's probably easier to deal with that in elementary school because you at least have the same classroom, homeroom teacher, and you can maybe catch up a little easier. But just want to know from folks, because I don't have any idea. I do have another friend whose daughter came home and said, oh, the bus didn't come, so they took them to school. But what happens to all those who can't take their kids to school? And I don't know that this has been discussed nearly enough. And whatever number or whatever the frequency this is happening, it's important to not only know that, but what's being done to make sure those students who are missing school are getting everything they need so that they're caught up or, up where they need to be, because this is through no fault of their own. So the question I'm asking from folks on this call, what has been your experience? And I'm really asking for if you had problems, just because I don't know what the scope of this is. We actually don't have a bus for one of our kids, and we're able to, drive him to school as he needs to be and pick him up. But, if this is happening in Title I schools, it's something that we need to know about and bring more attention to. So if folks can just put that in the chat if you've heard anything. And I would ask you, if you haven't heard anything, ask around, see what it's been like. because it hasn't been well discussed, but just hearing it from the two examples that I saw, I mean, I can't imagine those are the only two.
And Mike, I would add to that, if there are particular schools where that's happening, please let us know. The school board had extensive conversation regarding this. I want to say 2 or 3 meetings ago. We actually passed a resolution to raise a bus driver pay to try to attract and make sure we were more than competitive, above market, to try to attract bus drivers, because we do have a bus driver shortage nationally. But we did take those steps to try to address those concerns. And hopefully, if parents are experiencing that problem, they're receiving compassion within our schools to try to make sure we address those needs.
And this is partly to that and the other regarding COVID. What has the conversation been around a hybrid option or remote option when students have had an exposure, have to be out for a while, or if for some reason they don't get to school?
So the adjustment that was made is what we call the streaming option. So that if a kid, is determined to have had contact, a COVID contact, or is, has COVID, but they're home, they should be able to watch their class. Now, that's a little different than what we did with hybrid, which actually allowed two-way communication between the teacher and the student. We received a great deal of complaints regarding that, as teachers feeling as though they could not do both. But there's also a time period that each teacher sets up, so that if the child cannot be in class, but they're doing that streaming, then they get an opportunity to have actual face-to-face contact over Zoom, or, I'm sorry, it's Schoolology. But virtually, they have contact with their teacher to try to get that level of support while they are out. So plans have been made to try to keep those kids abreast during that time period.
Okay, I appreciate how long this has gone because folks have really been plugged in. And I do want to say, I think we intentionally did not layer you with too much to start, because everybody's coming in at a different place. And so the request for more information is great because we can definitely provide it. But I think in past years, we've had packets, we've had document upon document, and some of that can get real dense and it's not as accessible or digestible. So it helps that we've had this conversation, set some baseline expectations for what you should be seeing go on in your school. And now we can kind of build that foundation with, more content. But I would say, if there's one homework assignment I can give to everybody, watch the presentation and read the report. I'll give a fake teaser. Nothing, nobody was harmed. We were all on a camera, so it wasn't as if anything confrontational happened. But I am interested at your perception of the conversation, because I'll say this, and staff doesn't have to say it, and our school board member won't deny it. I had to push and bring back around focus to the anti-racism recommendation. And as we all vote, I imagine, or majority of us may vote for our school board members. I want you to be able to see it so that whether you've had a conversation with them or not, use it to have that conversation now. I think Ty may have said in our room, you wouldn't normally have access to the school board. Well, actually you can. Not only do you have access to Karen Keys-Gamarra and 2 other at large, you have the one in your magisterial district where you reside. So use this as an opportunity, if you haven't had engagement with them before, see where they lie on some things and follow up with them, because it's important that they hear from the greater community, from their constituents, And if you're informed going in, you may not like the answer you get, and they may not have an answer for you at the time, but we need to keep a healthy amount of pressure on the officials that we put in office to represent and fight for us. So let me leave you with that. I know we've gone way past the time, but I appreciate everybody staying on. I hope you felt this was a good use of your time. We're going to go to our, let me just give you quickly some updates. I was
Mike,
intent.
you're
I
on,
was.
yeah,
I know.
you're
I
on
know.
mute.
I know. I was talking to somebody who I live with.
Oh, okay.
I know everybody's gonna say, "Oh, you're muted. You didn't." Yeah, no. I had to throw him out the room. So, anyways,
Do you
so
want to touch base on these at the next meeting and start off the meeting with it? I've
I'm gonna
already seen some people exiting.
that's fine. I'm just gonna say who's there. I'm just gonna hop real quickly. So you're gonna see some changes, some proposed changes to the bylaws to give us more flexibility for our meeting and decision-making structure, as well as for membership. And we have some executive board vacancies, and you'll see that in writing. And we have two positions that are up for nomination. Right now, we have the high school representative and the vice chair representative, Mashika Davis Smith, who you heard from tonight. She's nominee for vice chair. And Moses Cobb, who's a member of the executive board. He's a high school rep, which is a new position we had. This will come in writing, but we just have a timeline based on when it has to be provided before a meeting where we can actually vote on it. So the December 7th meeting, can we go to the next slide? So this is our committee schedule for the rest of the year. And it used to be in case it snows, but now we don't have that issue anymore. If it snows or not, we would meet these times. Based on the feedback thus far, it seems like we will continue virtual because I think almost everybody said virtual. And I can understand that if you don't live close to where we were meeting, or if, you know, you may have 4 kids, like some people, and it may be easier. But I want to invite anybody to attend our executive board meetings. It's not a requirement asking you to join per se, but get a sense of the discussion. Yes, Jessica, I do too. You can hear in the background every time I can get out, I run out. But, you know, you get a deeper sense of some of the issues we're talking about, and you just always have an opportunity to learn more. So I'll invite you to attend. I won't ask you to join. You know, it'll be your decision. But if, you know, if you're bringing so many good ideas and energy, I mean, it's a great place to be. And just to make you all laugh, I ended up on this board because I didn't make a meeting. So I was nominated and voted on to the executive board for not showing up. So you better show up in December or your name might end up in the hat. With that, hope everybody has a great night. This recording, and so all the slides will be sent out subsequent to this meeting. So, like I said, a few different ways you can share this with your principal. You can forward the content, set up a phone call, set up a video call, send an email, you know, or a sit down. Just one of those, whatever works, relationship